G'day, how you doing? Adam Williams here from Adam Williams Creative YouTube channel, where we are now. Hello. And of course, Easy Way Photography, where you can get all of your online photography and Photoshop courses this month for 30% off. Jump over to www.easywayphotography.com.au. Well, today we've got something really interesting. I'm going to take you back 12, 18 months, maybe 2 years, to a shoot that I did at the Carnarvon Blow Hole in Western Australia. And I managed to capture something really, really beautiful. And I'm going to show you that. I've got a print here. I'm going to show you the print. And then what I've done, which is really, really interesting, is I've listed this print, and it's a 1 of 1. Okay, so it will be the only print within this edition. It's a 1 of 1, and I've listed it on eBay for $1. Now this is a bit crazy. Even I'm sort of second guessing this decision right now, because I think this is going to go really, really cheaply, and many people will be shaking their heads at why I would do that. But what I want to do is I want to build up some value in these 1 of 1 edition prints, and I want to offer my buyers a big chunk of that value initially. So, you know, my prints have sold for upwards of $3,000 in the past, and they have had many more prints in those editions. I don't think this print is going to go anywhere near that in this experiment. Look, it might surprise me and it might do, but I don't think so. I think it's going to go for a couple of $100 or maybe a little bit more. And do I think that's cheap? Absolutely. I think that's incredibly cheap for a 1 of 1 edition, an edition that will never be added to. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, and I'll give you the links and everything of how to get there. In the meantime, let's switch over to Lightroom. Here we are here in Lightroom. Now, as I said, a couple of years ago, what was the date? Can I find the date? I'm not really that great on Lightroom on finding dates and stuff. It doesn't really matter, does it? Let me see if we can see the metadata. Read metadata. Will it let me? All right, never mind. You would think I'm an expert at Lightroom. I'm really not. I'm an expert at Photoshop, but Lightroom, particularly little obscure things like finding the date of an image. We'll leave that. I don't even know what that's doing. Okay, forget about that. Skip that, the date. It was about 2 years ago at Carnarvon when I was traveling around Australia. There's a beautiful blowhole there. And I'd been there before, and I hadn't really captured anything that I really enjoyed. So I went out there and I started just having a play around with the standard shots first, as I often do. I'll go with the more standard type photos first, so the landscape orientation here, you know, with the blowhole sort of spouting up, a slightly long exposure. What do we got there? 1/3 of a second to get a little bit of movement going. But you know, it wasn't terribly inspirational. It wasn't really doing it for me. So let's just skip through here a few more and we'll see what we experimented with. Now you can see in the landscape view when the blowhole really went berserk, it was shooting out the top of the frame. Now that's not ideal, so I ended up switching around to a portrait mode, and this is a much better composition than the original landscape composition, I feel, here. But it's still very standard and not particularly, it's not really doing much. It's not all that special. So I decided to focus on a more simplistic abstract shot of shooting up into the sky and just capturing the spray. Now I was getting absolutely drenched because the wind was blowing up in my direction, and I had to get right down under the blowhole and shoot up into the sky. So I was getting absolutely drenched, and everyone there was a whole crowd of tourists there watching the blowhole. They were having a great laugh at me getting wet with my expensive camera. But sometimes you just got to get in there and get it done. And you can see we were starting to get some interesting textures and cloud shapes. And here is one. Sorry about the dust spots. A lot of dust spots on my camera. I was obviously due for a sensor clean. Okay, and then we've got these ones. Here's another interesting one. Okay, I like the way we got these wispy droplets coming off the bottom and these sort of fluffy sections up the top. Love that contrast. And you can see I started experimenting with black and white, here in Lightroom with my favourite ones because I feel like these simplistic photos really favoured black and white. You know, some really interesting shapes. So I was really taken by some of these shapes. Now it's just a case of, okay, well, which shapes really work really, really well? And I really enjoy the sun in there as well. So if we, like, for example, switch this to black and white, maybe add a little contrast, maybe add a little clarity. And then we can also come down here to the black and white menu. And this is really, really great for adding drama. You can grab the blue channel and really darken that down. All right, and you get something really cool. Maybe add a little texture. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Needs a clean up of those dust spots and whatnot, but that's really, really nice. But that's not my favourite. The favourite is the one I've printed out here. We'll get to that shortly. Okay, some nice shapes. And you can see I was using my hand to sort of remove the flare as well. You can see the flare dots just here, coming through here. And when I put my hand in frame, it removes those flares. It doesn't remove the dust spots, unfortunately, but having my hand in the frame made the composition much, much more difficult, as you can see. But it does take away, I'm kind of creating a shade over the hood so the sun isn't hitting the element, the lens element, the front element of the lens directly, which is what causes the flare. Okay, now as we come through here, I started getting some really interesting shapes. And in fact, this was the one that I've got right here, and I'll show you that in a minute. But let me just run through this a little bit. Let's clean up a couple of these big dust spots just quickly, not properly. I would normally do my dust removal in Photoshop because I find it to be a little bit more accurate, just so they're not so distracting. Now keep in mind, I spent several hours processing this image. Maybe 3 or 4 hours getting it perfect and getting it print prepared. And then I also proofed it 3 times, okay, before I finally went with the finished product here, which I'll show you in a minute. All right, that will do. I haven't got all the dust spots, but that will do. Again, initially I have a play around in Lightroom here, maybe tweak the contrast, see what the highlights, yeah, maybe I want a smaller sun like that. In the print I've gone with something more like that in actual fact. And then we've got maybe a little bit of texture, a little bit of clarity. We will go to black and white. Okay. And then we can also drop that down a little bit. Now, in Photoshop, I pulled up a little bit more detail out of this cloud here, which really sets the print off. And I also tidied a few things up, tidied up that flare, and obviously tidied up all the dust spots. And then we came up with, here it is here, you ready? Drum roll, actually, I need to go back. Let me go back to full screen here. Here we go, back to full screen. Let's see if the camera, oh, which side do I want to be on? Let's be on that side. Let's come in there. I just want to sort of, oh, wrong way. The camera's all backwards on me. Look at that. Right. There we go. We got it right where I wanted eventually by messing around. It's absolutely gorgeous. All that detail. To me, the print is called Earth Angel. It reminds me of an angel sort of shedding all its earthly, I guess, possessions or burdens, and ascending up to the heavens there where the sun is, that sort of light at the end of the tunnel. So Earth Angel is this print here. As you can see, where are we? Just down here. It's signed by myself, and it's a 1 of 1. This will be the only one ever in this edition. There is 3 artist proofs within the edition. So there's the 1 of 1 limited edition, which will never be expanded on. And there is the 3 artist proofs, which will be used by myself for exhibitions and other purposes, keeping within my own collection. So there is 4 prints within the entire series, but only 1 print in the limited edition. It's a 1 of 1 original, and it's on eBay right now at a starting bid of just $1. I don't know where it will end up. I hope it does okay, because I'd like to do this maybe once a month or so. But look, I think this is going to be an absolute bargain initially. What do I think it's valued at right now? It really depends what someone's willing to pay for it, doesn't it? But I feel its true market value is probably around 1,500 to 2,000 Australian dollars. Okay. What do I think it will go for? It's hard to say. Starting at $1, look, I think a few $100s. I think it will go for a few $100s. I hope it does. I hope it doesn't go for $50 or something like that. That might be the end of the experiment. If it goes for 200 or 300 or 400, then I will definitely keep looking at building this up into something and do it once a month. And hopefully, eventually I can build that up till we're getting closer to market value around that $1,000 or $1,500 per print. At this point, I feel like whoever buys this is probably going to get an incredible investment and something they can treasure for a really long time at a really great price level, I think, but I don't know. Have a look in the description below. It's starting at $1. It will run for, I think it's only running for 7 days. So check that out. If not, leave me a comment and let me know if you've missed out and the auction is finished. Leave me a comment in the section below, in the comments below, and let me know if you would like to participate in another auction of this kind in the future, and I might do one next month as well. That's all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed that little look at this particular shoot of Carnarvon Blow Hole. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.